1230 WBVP 1460 WMBA 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas 95.7 FM. This is being live streamed on our Facebook page. And I knew Dale was here because I looked out and the sun was shining. Dale, what a horrible line. I'm sorry. Dale Reckless of MRS Physical Therapy joins me. We're going to talk about, among other things, I'm guessing, how many people are going to go out today because it's sunny and do something stupid that their body's not ready for and then call you?
I expect
Does that count as a topic?
I expect a lot of us are going to be at least thinking about it today. They
Okay.
may be a little cautious from what we saw yesterday, but I am absolutely sure most of your listeners by this weekend will be out and about getting back into the regular spring activities.
Yeah, the 80s, I think, is the high for Sunday.
Yeah.
And we're going to be so happy. How different is it going to be that this is the second year of really people living a different life? Did it ease back into it for people last year? Did you get busy last year with people going out and overexerting?
Absolutely.
Did you?
But this year is much higher numbers than we saw last year, as far as my perspective goes, as far as people getting back out and about.
Okay.
And me being busier because of injuries that have occurred because of those things.
Well, what's the big injury for springtime? For winter, it's snow shoveling.
Yeah.
And the back mostly.
Yeah.
What are we tearing up in the spring?
Yeah, so what happens in the spring is, we all get eager to get back out. Some of us haven't done a whole lot through the winter months.
Yeah.
And what I always caution people that haven't been doing anything through the winter months is don't try to jump right back into where you were, when you stop doing things. You got to ease yourself back into those activities again. The typical things we look at in the spring as far as injuries go is we typically see low back issues, knee issues, foot issues, and also people come to a realization about some balance issues that might have started to transpire over the course of the wintertime and haven't realized it, but now that they're out and about, they start to notice they're having some balance issues that they didn't know that were starting to happen.
Did they not notice, and this is a weird question, but did they not notice because they were inside and they basically acclimate themselves, hand on the wall, and then you go outside and now there's not a hand on the wall?
Yeah, so a lot of our activities that we do outside, you don't necessarily do inside the house. So when we go outside and, for example, we start doing gardening work, or we're doing, kind of raking up the yard, or we're doing some mulching, a lot of times we're getting down and up off the ground when we're doing those activities, and those are just simply things that we haven't been doing while we're indoors. And so what happens is, with especially my aging population, they didn't realize that some of their muscles have gotten weak or that their balance has started to change over the course of winter, and now they're going to have difficulties and struggles when they're in this, in the springtime, getting in and out, up and down from the ground in their garden, mulching and things like that.
How quickly can that happen?
It can happen pretty quickly. We know that as we age, our balance changes. About a third of the people over the age of 65 fall every year. About half the people over the age of 80 fall every year.
Really?
And it's not like you turn 80 and all of a sudden your statistics change. There is somewhat of a progression to it, but a lot of that depends on your level of regular activity. And sometimes for people, like I said, they don't realize it's happened over the course of the winter time because they weren't as active. They didn't have to get up and down from the ground. And now when they're trying to get back and do their gardening, which they haven't done for 6 or 7 months, they realize they get down and they can't get back up again because their muscles have gotten weak over the winter, or their balance has changed over the course of that 6 or 7 months.
If you've got a question for Dale, now would be a good time. You can call it. You can also easier. This is being live Facebook feeded. Have we ever is it feeded or fed?
I'd say fed.
All right. This is being live Facebook fed. You're the guest. If you've got a question for Dale, put it in the comments section of the live Facebook feed. Dale Reckless of MRS Physical Therapy with me this first hour on Teleforum. Why do we start losing our balance as we get older?
So a couple things change as we get older. Like I said, low back issues, knee issues, foot issues happen. Low back issues happen a lot because our flexibility changes as we age. Our flexibility, by the age of about 65, our flexibility in our low back can change about 50%. It can decrease. The same thing in your feet and ankles. Your foot and ankle flexibility can decrease about 50% by the age of 55, 60. So that's something that most people aren't aware of, but we pay attention to at MRS Physical Therapy because we have identified that change in flexibility is going to affect someone's balance. It's going to affect someone's ability to move, and it could increase the likelihood of them having low back pain or foot and ankle pain.
If it can happen relatively quickly, how do we not notice it? Do we compensate a little bit at a time?
Well, what typically happens is we're not as active. And
Okay.
when we're not as active, we don't challenge those muscles.
We're not doing as
So
much to notice it.
what we see in the springtime with a sudden increase in activity, whether you decide to get your bicycle out and go for a bike ride, or maybe you start doing a walking or running program, or you're just simply trying to clean up your garden in your front yard, that's what happens more often than not. You're starting to clean up around the yard, and you're bending over frequently, we're going to have maybe one nice day or 2 nice days this week, and everyone's going to want to get out and be like, I have to get this started. And they're going to do a lot of increased activity. And from that repetitive bending over and over again, if they've lost some of that spinal flexibility over the course of the winter, if they've lost some of that ankle flexibility over the course of the winter, if their balance has changed, you're going to notice that pretty quickly. You're going to notice the next day when you get up, you're going to be stiff. You might feel some low back pain. You might feel some knee pain. You might feel some foot and ankle pain. Or as I said earlier, you might notice it's harder for you to get up off the ground. You feel like you lose your balance a little bit, or maybe someone even falls, and they've never fallen before, and all of a sudden they realize this is a balance issue. Well, that's something that we can take care of at MRS Physical Therapy through our balance program and our strengthening and flexibility program. It's something that we're very in tune with our patients, and we see and we can measure their flexibility changes. We can measure their strength changes. We have certain tests we can do to assess their balance and see what we need to work on in the physical therapy program to get them back into their regular routine and be able to do it safely again.
When it comes to balance calls, how many calls do you get people are noticing an issue versus calls you get after something bad happens?
Most of the time it's after something bad happens. That's
Yeah.
just our human nature, I believe. We try to push through things and feel like it's going to get better on its own. And when it doesn't, that's when patients or oftentimes their spouse will be like, you need to go see Dale at MRS to help you out. Because
I'm tired of helping you get back up.
Yeah, right. People get concerned that they fall, they can't get back up, and one of these falls is going to lead to an injury, and that's the last thing you want to do is break a hip or hurt something from a fall and not be able to get back up again.
Is there anything you can do? You said it gets worse. Is there anything you can do to stop it from getting worse?
Absolutely. There's flexibility and strengthening exercises you can do to slow down the progression of things.
And that's stuff you can do at home. You just need to be schooled up on how to do it.
You just
from
need to be
MRS.
schooled up, and what we do is when someone comes in for an evaluation, on that first day we give you a home exercise program, and we review that home exercise program with you after the evaluation. The exercises are unique to what we found in our evaluative process, whether it's a low back issue or a knee issue or a foot ankle issue or a balance issue. Sometimes it's a combination of those things. Sometimes
Right.
it's just not one path, but there's multiple paths. And we want to assess those issues to help you feel better. As an example, I had a patient come in on Monday, and we assessed. She had neck pain, she had shoulder pain, and she had low back pain. So a lot of my patients have multiple paths of direction that we need to go down with them to help them recover for decreasing their pain and improving their flexibility and improving really their quality of living. That's our ultimate goal, is to improve someone's quality of living so that they can do their regular daily activities without being in pain or without being fearful of losing their balance and falling.
How often does it spread? It goes, I have one issue, and now there's a second or third issue.
I wouldn't say it spreads necessarily, but you can have multiple issues just through the aging process. As our body ages, a lot of different things change. And so we need to pay attention to all those different things that change. That's the nice thing with our evaluative process that we do at MRS, is we evaluate the whole body. There's not a joint in the body that we can't evaluate and can't take care of. Everything from, I always say head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Whether it's, jaw pain you have from TMJ, neck pain you have from maybe some arthritic changes, mid or low back pain, hip, knee, ankle, foot pain. And then, of course, our balance and vestibular program for those patients that have dizziness issues or balance issues.
How often do people leave saying, I had no idea it was that simple to fix something I've dealt with forever? Because if it's debilitating, it feels like forever.
Yeah, that's quite a common thing that we hear, because a lot of patients will push themselves and delay coming to physical therapy. And that's just kind of, like I said before, our common nature is trying to put things off. But when patients come in and they realize it's not rocket science for the exercise program that they have to do, the hardest thing is for them to just be compliant and following through with the exercise program. The exercise program usually takes 10 or 15 minutes for them to do at home. They'll do it a couple times a week.
Wait, back up. What do you mean compliant? How many people agree to do it that don't do it? It seems like you're setting yourself up to fail if you're them.
Many people have a hard time following through with exercising.
Do they?
Yeah,
okay.
Just like people have a hard time, they join the gym and then, the gym is packed.
$14.99 a month for the rest of their life.
The gym is packed the month of January, and then for the rest of the year, the gym's empty. That happens all the time with gyms. And that's because patients, have good intentions, but actually following through with the activities that they need to do is hard for people to do.
Is it tough for them if they don't instantly see results? Is that part of it? Because you're very seldom are you going to instantly, everything's all better no matter what it is.
Yeah, some of the programs we do, we see pretty quick results. For
Okay.
example, our vestibular program for people that have dizziness.
Right.
And that happens when you roll in bed or get up out of bed, you feel the room spinning really quick. Or a lot of times at the hairdresser, after you've been tipped back getting your hair washed and you sit back up, you get that room spinning sensation. That's called vertigo. The solution to that is very, very quick. We have very quick results of that. Usually 1 or 2 visits, they're better from that. So that's one of the diagnoses that we treat and we talk about as much as possible, because a lot of people don't realize that MRS Physical Therapy has a very good program that helps to fix vertigo in a very short period of time. I've had patients that have had vertigo for 20 or 30 years and never realized it was something that could be fixed, and we fixed them in 2 visits, and that's a pretty big deal.
30 years to 2 visits, yeah. That's literally you're getting your life back.
Yeah, and not every diagnosis is that quick. A lot of the neurological diagnoses that we treat, they're more chronic or long term. For example, our Parkinson's program, there's not a cure for Parkinson's, but we have a very specific exercise program for Parkinson's that people can do, and they can slow down the progression of their Parkinson's disease. The same thing with multiple sclerosis. We have a very good program for people with MS. And again, there's not a cure for MS, but we have a very specifically designed exercise program for those with MS to help slow down the progression and help them manage their symptoms.
What would be an MS specific exercise that wouldn't be somewhere else? That's really interesting.
Yeah, so with multiple sclerosis, what I talk a lot with my patients is exercise dosage. Just like a medication. So you have an amount of medication that you're supposed to take that the doctor's prescribed for you. Mm-hmm. If you don't take it, it's not going to help you. So that's related to if you don't exercise, it's not going to help you.
Okay.
But if you take too little of the medication, it's not going to help you. If you take too much of the medication, that's a bad deal too.
That's
so you have to find
worse,
the right dosage of that medication that's going to work for you. So whether that's 200 milligrams, 400 milligrams, whatever that is, the doctor prescribes that based on the diagnosis to help you be better. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact thing with exercise. You have to have the right amount of exercise to get yourself better. If you don't exercise at all, that's not going to help you. If you exercise too little, meaning you don't do enough weight or you don't do enough repetitions, it's not going to help you. If you do too much, especially with multiple sclerosis, that can wear you down and it can make you fatigue faster, make you feel just absolutely limp and miserable. So with multiple sclerosis, you have to find the right exercise dosage, the right amount of weight, the right amount of repetitions that's going to get you stronger without fatiguing you. And that goes for a lot of the diagnoses that we treat. You have to have the right exercise that you're going to do, and you have to have the right dosage of it. You have to do the right number of reps, the right amount of weight resistance training, the right amount of aerobic activity. And that's our job as physical therapists at MRS to design that program for you. That makes us specialists. That's what makes us different than your Google search, right? Your Google search is just going to give you...
Oh, come on. Google search is the best.
Yeah, the Google search is not going to be individualized to you. It's going to give you what some people have found to be beneficial. But our programs at MRS are going to be very specific to you as an individual. Once we do the evaluation, like I said that first day, as soon as I do the evaluation, I go over to the computer and I start writing down an exercise program based on the findings that I found. And then we review that with you on your first day, so that from your first day forward, you can start working towards your recovery.
And that's not just true with the MS exercises or specific exercises. Did the word overtrain exist 30 years ago? We know it can be done now, but I don't remember saying you're lifting too many weights.
Well, 30 years ago, we had the no pain, no gain mantra, which I don't believe in.
Yeah,
so.
the Google thing. The bone sticking out of your leg. Google says tape an aspirin to it. Yes. No pain, no gain. That's exactly right.
So the overdoing it was probably not such a big deal back then because we had that no pain, no gain mantra that people followed, which we know now is not the best way to deal with your diagnosis and recovery from it. A lot of times we're seeing overuse injuries where people are doing too much. We see kids that are doing specialty, they're specializing in a sport for too long. For a sport, you really shouldn't be playing a single sport for more than 7 months out of a year. And we know we see that all the time when people are doing things because your body needs to recover and do different things.
Okay, so it's not a muscle memory thing. You're working certain body parts.
Yeah, so you can't pitch 12 months out of the year as a baseball player. Usually about 7 months out of the year for most sports is what you want to do, and then the other months you can do something different. The other months you can do basketball or tennis or something else. Some aerobic activities, working other body parts. You're not doing the same thing repetitively over and over again. That's going to cause an injury.
You're not playing spring baseball and then summer baseball and then fall baseball and then working out in the winter.
Right. So your body needs recovery time, and your body needs to do different things, and we call that cross training, right? Cross training's been around for a long time.
Yeah, they just gave it a name. When we were kids, or when I was a kid, it was just what's the next sport? You went and you did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right, tell people how they can get in touch with you. MRS Physical Therapy, 2 locations.
2 locations. The one location is in the heart of Bridgewater in Stone Point Landing, and that telephone number to get a hold of us is 724-728-7550. And then our other location is in Cranberry Township, and that is on Route 19 right next to North Park Lounge, and that number is 724-591-8121. I serve both locations, so you can see me in either place for your evaluation. And then we also have occupational therapy in both locations. So occupational therapy, and if you've watched our show before, we've brought Kelly in to talk about OT. Mm-hmm. OT deals with different types of injuries and sometimes similar injuries, but approaches it in a different way from a activities of daily living perspective. So having both physical therapy and occupational therapy is a real advantage for us at MRS to be able to deliver both kinds of care to our patients.
Dale Reckless will continue with me. Questions you can call or comment on the Facebook feed. After the break, Dale's going to tell me just how evil the old gym coaches actually were in retrospect. It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM and 95.7 FM, along with Huntington Bank, our police area series of shows entitled Huntington Business Spotlight, shining the light on local businesses making a difference in our community. Tune in Thursday, April 21st from 9:10 a.m. till 10 a.m. with special guest Gordon Sheffer from Waffles and Caffeinated, putting the spotlight on local business. It's Huntington Business Spotlight Thursday, April 21st at 9:10 a.m. right here on Beaver County Radio, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM and 95.7 FM.
When Mary arrived for her second visit, she opened my door and danced from the door to my front desk with this huge smile on her face. And then she just started bawling. She starts to tell me that it was the first time in 12 years that she felt relief. And then I started to well up.
That's Dr. Sean Ritchie of Tri-State Neuropathy Centers. And Mary Danced In is just one of his thousands of success stories.
Peripheral neuropathy, if I can explain it in terms that they feel it, it's like if you would sit on your foot and your foot falls asleep, you start to tap it and it comes back to life. Or their foot never comes back to life. It's always feeling that numbness, that pins and needles, that tingling, and it just never goes away. So Mary comes in, proceed to hear that she's had this for 12 years. Got to the point where she was about to go into a walker. 2 days later, she's dancing.
For your free consultation, call 878-313-3019. That's 878-313-3019. Or go to marydancedin.com.
I'm Dr. Sean Ritchie, and I'm teaming up with Dr. Jared Yevans to bring hope to the neuropathy sufferers in Beaver.
If you are the parent or grandparent of a 4-year-old, you might already be asking yourself some questions about early childhood education. Well, listen up, because this is a very important announcement. The Western Beaver and Blackhawk school districts are participants in the Pennsylvania Pre-K Counts program and are now accepting applications for the upcoming school year. This completely free program for those who qualify features a full-day session where children are taught by highly qualified, certified teachers in a variety of developmentally appropriate areas, including language, literacy, math, creative arts, personal and social interactions, physical development, health and science, and social studies. Transportation is provided for Western Beaver and Black Hawk residents. This might be the answer you have been looking for. Call 724-643-9310, extension 4018, or click westernbeaver.org and download an application in the Forms tab. Western Beaver and Black Hawk School Districts and Pennsylvania Pre-K counts. Education starts here.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Frank Sparks.
And good morning, as today's forecast is calling for mostly sunny skies. High's going to be up to 56 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County Radio weather forecast coming up for you right after we have this look at news. With a federal judge striking down the national mask mandate on airplanes and mass transit on Monday, and the Transportation Security Administration saying Monday night that it would no longer enforce the mask requirement, the Beaver County Transit Authority has lifted the masking mandate on all facilities and BCTA vehicles, including the DART bus program. Mary Jo Morandini, General Manager of the Beaver County Transit Authority, told Beaver County Radio that BCTA has followed all CDC guidelines throughout the pandemic. The CDC does still recommend that people wear masks in indoor public transportation settings. However, BCTA is making masking optional, following along the same lines as Pat Transit and the Pittsburgh International Airport, once the TSA said that it would no longer enforce the mask requirement after the federal judge's rulings. Pittsburgh's police chief says an officer who went to a short-term rental property where a party was going on shortly before gunfire broke out, killing 2 youths, saw nothing to suggest it was anything other than an ordinary noise complaint. Chief Scott Schubert told the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on Tuesday that video indicates that the vast majority of the 200 or so people at the party didn't arrive until after the noise complaint call. About 90 minutes later, shortly after 12:30 a.m. on Sunday, some kind of altercation occurred, and gunfire inside and outside killed 2 17-year-olds and wounded 9 people. Other people were also injured while they were trying to escape. Pennsylvania State Senator Wayne Fontana commended the Department of Environmental Protection for investing in electric vehicles for use in Allegheny County. Across the Commonwealth, funding went to 13 municipalities and businesses for 15 projects, including a $52,500 investment in electric pickup trucks and cars that will be used by the Allegheny County Police, Park Rangers, and the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. Fontana said via release that I'm proud to see that state funds support local efforts to reduce harmful emissions and build environments that are healthier to breathe in. Grants awarded to Allegheny County include $45,000 for 4 electric pickup trucks and 2 electric cars used by the Allegheny County Police, Park Rangers, and facilities management staff. $7,500 was also for an electric car for the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. Allegheny Health Network's Center for Inclusion Health, led by internist Dr. Elizabeth Cuevas, has been recognized by the Society of General Internal Medicine with its 2022 Quality and Practice Innovation Award. Dr. Cuevas was recently presented with the award in Orlando, Florida, at the Society's annual meeting. AHN's Center for Inclusion Health, part of the AHN Medicine Institute, was formed in 2014 as one of the nation's first comprehensive programs of its kind focused on meeting the healthcare needs of individuals in underserved or marginalized populations. Through a coordinated and compassionate care delivery model and using evidence-based interventions, its program addresses obstacles that can make it difficult for people to access care, including addiction, food insecurity, HIV/AIDS, homelessness, gender diversity, incarceration, immigration, and more. Dr. Cuevas was instrumental in launching the center and was named its division chief in 2020. As part of her role, she works to ensure consistent delivery of CIH's mission to provide compassionate, accessible care to individuals with unmet health and wellness needs. The Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture has confirmed a positive case of highly pathogenic avian influenza in a flock of commercial layered chickens in Lancaster County. Emily Scott has more.
Also known as high-path AI, there is no immediate public health concern as no human cases of avian influenza have been detected in the United States. However, it can cause sudden death, lack of energy and appetite, decreased egg production, and more in infected birds. Pennsylvania Agriculture Secretary Russell Redding says an interagency task force is working to address the threat from the disease and protect the state's $7.1 billion poultry industry.
Biosecurity is most important for anyone who owns or works with poultry. Anyone visiting a farm should be aware that your vehicles and shoes may carry the virus from other places you have traveled. Clean them thoroughly and stay away from the poultry barns unless you have to be there.
This is the first positive case of high-path AI in commercial poultry in the state since an outbreak in 1983 and 1984. Infections in commercial and backyard poultry flocks have been confirmed in 29 states, including most surrounding Pennsylvania. I'm Emily Scott.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Mostly sunny skies today with a high of 56 degrees. Overnight tonight, a slight chance of showers after 3 a.m. with a low of 46. Showers likely tomorrow, mainly before 2 p.m. with a high of 64. For your Friday, a slight chance of afternoon showers. High is going to be up to 68 degrees. Friday night, showers after 8 p.m., low 53. And then on Saturday, partly sunny, high of 79. Sunday, mostly sunny, high 83 degrees. That is a look at the news for now. I'm Frank Sparks, Beaver County Radio News, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and beavercountyradio.com.
1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 presented by, I don't know which camera to look at, so I look like a bobblehead. That one? I don't want to look at that one now. This is being live fed on Facebook. I'm Eddy Crow. My guest, standing proudly in his spring white shirt, Dale Reckless of MRS Physical Therapy. I'm sitting for those of you not watching this on Facebook, I'm sitting in a chair like I'm about to get scolded by the principal, and you're standing there, and what are we doing? I'll describe it as we're doing it for the people not watching it.
Okay, so as we've been talking about this show, we're talking about getting back into your spring activity, and a lot of us haven't been doing much over the winter time.
This has been my winter activity, sitting.
This has been a lot of people's winter activity, sitting. So we're talking about this because I believe most of you listening and watching are going to want to get up and start doing things this weekend. It's supposed to be nice weather.
80.
You're going to probably be hitting the yard, maybe working on cleaning up the front yard, getting the garden cleaned up, getting things ready to go. And over the course of the winter, you might not have realized that your muscles have gotten a little weaker, or your balance has changed, or your flexibility has changed. So we're going to do 3 really easy tests that you can do on your own at home to help you identify, is my strength decreased a little bit? Has my balance changed? Okay. Because these are the things that commonly happen. We lose flexibility, we lose strength, we lose balance when we're inactive, or just through the course of the aging process. So through the course of the aging process, your balance and your strength and flexibility might have changed as well. So we're going to demonstrate with Eddy these 3 simple tests. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can see the test. We'll describe it if you're just listening.
Okay.
So the first simple test is just called a sit-to-stand test. And these are actual real tests I do in the clinic as a part of my evaluation for patients when they come in. So this test is to evaluate your ability. It's a functional test because it's your ability to get up out of a chair. It's a sit-to-stand test. But what it is really doing is looking at flexibility and strength. A little bit of balance, more flexibility and strength. So when you're doing this at home, you want to put your arms across your shoulders because you're not allowed to use your arms for this test.
That was my question.
So a lot of people use their arms to push themselves up out of a chair, but for this one, we're just assessing your lower extremity strength and flexibility and balance. So your arms are across your shoulders, and all you do is you come to a stand. So go ahead and Eddy, just stand up for us from that position.
Am I allowed to grunt? Does that count against the old man grunt?
It doesn't count against you.
Okay.
It doesn't dock any points. Okay, so that's just a simple being able to stand up. And go ahead and sit back down again. So a lot of my patients are unable to do that. Without using their arms, they're unable to get up out of a chair. Now, we have a nice, firm, seated chair that Eddy's coming out of. So if you're trying this at home, if you're in a recliner or you're in a couch or something like that, it's going to be
beanbag chair.
It's going to be a lot more difficult for you to get up out of the chair. So use a kitchen chair, to be fair, because that's the type of chair we use in our testing. Something that's got a firm sitting surface. So the test is really a 30-second sit-to-stand test. So the first thing we identified is that Eddy's able to get up out of the chair one time with his arms across his shoulders.
Can I put my arms down?
No, without pushing up. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to time him for 30 seconds and see how many times he can stand up and sit back down again. So we're just going to guess the 30-second time frame.
We're sneaking suspiciously close to the president's physical fitness test in gym class with this.
All right, so the next thing I would ask my patient is to stand up and sit back down as many times as they can in a 30-second time frame. So go ahead and stand up and sit back down repetitively. Stand up and back down. Come to a full stand. No cheating. That's it.
Gym
3.
coach crap.
So we're counting Eddie's sit-to-stands. 4. 5.
When I'm winded at the end of this, you're going to take over for a while.
6.
6.
I'll keep talking.
22.
7. Damn. 8. 9.
What gets me the gold patch to put on my gym shorts?
We're going to stop there, okay?
Thank
so
you.
he did 10 sit-to-stands well under 30 seconds, okay? About 10, you should be able to do that sit-to-stand test 10 or 12 times in a 30-second time frame to be within what we call our normal limits. Okay.
Right.
The problem is with patients that can't stand up at all, and I have a couple patients right now, they can't stand up at all without using their hands because their legs have gotten weak. Their quad muscles and their glute muscles have gotten weak, and so they're unable to stand up out of a chair without using their arms, and that's indicative of functional weakness that they've developed in their lower body. And so I would then develop an exercise program for you at home if you're unable to do that, for your lower body to get stronger so you can get up out of a chair without using your arms.
And that's not something that's going to be overnight. That's something that comes at you over time.
That will take some time to develop that lower body strength. And that's what happens to my patients. After about a month, they're able to get up out of the chair without using their arms, indicating their glutes and their quad muscles have gotten stronger. And then we'll work on a repetitive ability to do that, not just once, but to do it repetitively. And functionally, we also see this for people that get down and they can't get back up off the ground. These same muscle groups have gotten weak, and it means they're unable to get up off the ground again. So if you're at home this weekend and you try to garden and you have trouble getting up, it might be indicative of you wanting to give us a call to work on lower body strengthening and balance to be able to get back up off the ground so you can garden safely. Okay, the next test is done in standing. So
Arms up.
We're just going to stand up. Okay. Does that watch tell you your heart rate too?
Yeah, 94.
Okay, good. Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm safe with you and we're not overtaxing your system here.
Oh, no, I'm okay.
Okay, so the next test is a single leg balance test. So again, you can do this one at home, but I'm standing here with Eddie so that if he were to lose his balance and fall, I could catch him. If you're doing this on your own at home, I suggest you're doing it with a solid surface like a countertop in front of you so that if you do lose your balance, which happens very commonly with this test, you're not going to fall and hurt yourself. So all you're doing is just balancing on one foot for as long as you can.
Okay.
Go ahead. 1 Mississippi, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and go down. Let's do the other side as well. 1, 1, 2,
that one's
3,
tougher.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can put both feet down. The reason I stopped at 10 seconds is if you can't balance on one foot for 10 seconds, you're at high risk of falling. If you can't balance on one foot for 10 seconds, you should be calling my office right away because you're at a high risk of falling if you can't balance on one foot for 10 seconds. Most people should actually be able to balance on one foot for anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds to be within normal limits. But if you can't balance on one foot for 10 seconds, you're at high risk for falling. And you could fall just from going upstairs, going up a curb, or just through your regular daily activities. Okay? The next test is, I saved the hardest for last.
Sure you did.
Is a single leg heel raise test. So you're going to get on one foot, and you can hold on to something for this test.
Oh, okay.
So you can hold on to the table because it's really a strength and flexibility test. And what you're going to do is you're going to come up on your tippy toes and back down. So you're doing what's called a heel raise.
Just
just on the one foot, you're going to come up and down your tippy toes. It's heel raise. And you're going to do it repetitively. And you should be, if you're within normal limits, you should be able to do that at least 19 times. And during the test, you might feel a little burning in the muscle.
Oh, yeah.
So patients have difficulty doing this. They might lose their balance. Maybe they can't get up on their tippy toes at all. Especially some of our patients with neurological diagnosis, they can't get up on their tippy toe at all.
19 with this one?
Yep, you should be able to do it on both feet. Now I expect Eddie to do well with this because he's a bicycle rider. That works his calves pretty good. Should have some pretty good strength in his calves. But you trying this at home, make sure you're holding on to something. If you're unable to do it, it might be indicative that you've lost some flexibility in your ankles over the course of the wintertime due to lack of activity. You might have lost some strength over the wintertime, again, secondary to activity.
Wait, one more. 20.
Okay.
Extra
so
credit.
that is probably that's the hardest of the 3 tests to be able to do. So if any of those 3 tests you had difficulty with, I recommend you giving us a call to MRS Physical Therapy or Cranberry Physical Therapy.
My heart rate went down.
Down to what?
Down. It was 94 before.
Okay.
Yeah, it went down to 93. It's at 94.
Okay, so that's not really a significant change.
I'm fit.
But the sit to stand was a harder test for you than the single.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I recommend if you're unable to do any of those tests, you give us a call to MRS. You don't need a script to come see us. We see people under what's called direct access, which means you don't have to see your doctor first. So you can just come in to see us. If you feel like your balance has changed, your flexibility has changed, or your strength has changed over the course of the winter, give us a call and we can help you get back into shape again.
Can I sit back down?
Yeah, we'll
I'm
convene
winded.
back over here.
No, it's still at 94.
You can get a drink of water if you'd like.
No. I knew. I saw my schedule. Dale's coming in. Oh, I'm going to have to do some weird, stupid human trick.
So like I said, we have 2 clinics, one in Bridgewater and one in Cranberry. The Bridgewater clinic is right in the heart of Bridgewater in Stone Point Landing. And that telephone number is 724-728-7550. And then the Cranberry clinic is on Route 19 right next door to North Park Lounge. And that number is 724-591-8121. If you want to check out our website, it's mrsphysicaltherapy.com. And if you have any questions, you can send me an email, and my email is d.reckless, that's d.reckless at mrsphysicaltherapy.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions either through a phone call or through an email if you want to ask any questions before you come in for your therapy.
What is the most, normal is not the right word, what patients do you hear from more than others, or is it seasonal?
Probably our number 1 diagnosis is low back pain, which is pretty typical for most PT clinics. Although our top 5 diagnoses are a little bit different than other PT clinics because of our specialty programs that we have.
Okay.
We specialize in treating Parkinson's disease. And that's pretty unique for a PT clinic to specialize in Parkinson's disease. But we do it because there's a high prevalence of Parkinson's in Western Pennsylvania. We actually run 2 different Parkinson's support groups, one here in Beaver County and one in Butler County. The Beaver County group meets the 2nd Tuesday of the month, and the Butler County group meets the 1st Friday of the month. So if you have Parkinson's or you know someone with Parkinson's and you want to interact with either of our Parkinson's support groups, you can give us a call for that. Another unique program that we have is our vestibular therapy program.
That's the balance thing, isn't it?
That's inclusive of a lot of different things.
Okay.
Balance is one of the components of vestibular rehab. Vertigo, the dizziness that we talked about earlier, that's a component of vestibular rehab. People with vestibular rehab deficits, they're off balance or they're dizzy for one reason or another. Sometimes it's from a virus. Sometimes it just happens through the course of the aging process. But it's a very unique program because we help identify what the vestibular deficits are, where their problem is, and then we help to have the patient recover from it based on the diagnosis that we find. A lot of patients will be referred to us from an ENT or a primary care doctor just for balance issues, and then we have to figure out as physical therapists at MRS, why they're having these balance issues and how we can help them to recover in the shortest period of time with the best outcomes.
Why don't more people, you talk about Parkinson's, there's a lot of it, that's why you treat it. There's a lot of the vestibular issues. Why don't more people treat it?
It's just our interest to serve the community. MRS Physical Therapy has always been a company that's wanting to be able to treat anybody within the community.
Right.
So we see all age groups. We see babies on up to adults, babies with torticollis and other different deficits like that, all the way to the older adult, and we treat all diagnosis, everything from what we talked about, Parkinson's, neurological diagnosis, strokes. We do amputee rehab. I have a couple patients with amputations right now that we're rehabilitating. The vestibular diagnosis, TMJ, jaw pain we treat. Just about any diagnosed lymphedema. We have a lymphedema program. Any diagnosis
I don't know what that is.
Lymphedema is when your lymph nodes aren't operating properly and you have a lot of swelling in your limb. So for the upper body, for the arm, it's a lot of women that have had mastectomies.
All right.
For the lower body, you can have lymphedema for different reasons, but oftentimes your limb is a lot larger. Sometimes it's on one side, sometimes it's on both sides.
Okay.
But it's a lot larger than it should be because your lymphatic system isn't working properly.
Is that when you see the compression sleeves
That's
and
when
things
you
like
get
that?
the compression sleeves.
Okay.
Before you get the compression sleeve, you go through our lymphedema program. And what our lymphedema program is exercises to help reduce the size of your limb, manual lymphatic drainage, which is hands-on, kind of getting that lymphatic flow to work properly. We do wrapping with, they look like ACE wraps. They're not really ACE wraps, but they look like that.
Right.
They have a certain amount of compression to them to help decrease the size of the limb. And then once there's a maintained level of the size of the limb, then we get the compression socks. So if you skip the lymphedema program and just go to the compression socks, they're not going to help you out as well as if you were to go through the lymphedema program first.
Okay, you're actually setting up the joint for the best case scenario for the sleeve by not pre-treating it, but treating it.
We're treating it ahead of
earlier.
time so that you can get the smallest size sleeve as possible to maintain the small level. If you just put a sleeve on, then you're just putting a sleeve on a really large limb, then you're not getting as much benefit as if you do the lymphedema program first to reduce the size of the limb. Then you can get a smaller compression stocking, so you'll actually have a smaller sized limb as a result.
I want to go back to the Parkinson's treatment. What is singular about the way you treat Parkinson's that you wouldn't treat another issue? That's really interesting.
Yeah, so the biggest program with Parkinson's is called LSVT Big. The LSVT Big program is a researched, scientifically based program that's specifically designed for people with Parkinson's disease. And how that works is people with Parkinson's movements often become slower and smaller.
Okay.
So I can see someone walking down the street and I can tell if they have Parkinson's disease just by their movement patterns. Okay, they're very specific movement patterns that are very common with people with Parkinson's. It's usually small, shuffling steps.
Okay.
Usually you see really small arm movements. Sometimes it's more on one side versus the other. Usually they're flexed forward at their upper body. But
Tougher to get up on a curb, seriously.
Yeah, but you can just identify someone with Parkinson's by how they walk. And the exercise program is specifically geared towards those symptoms. The slowness and the smallness of their movements, the LSVT Big program helps to reverse that, at least slow it down.
Really?
So the movements are then bigger. We have the patient think bigger, their movements are bigger, then they become more normalized. So it's a very successful, scientifically based program that helps improve the outcomes of someone with Parkinson's. It helps slow down the progress of the Parkinson's symptoms and helps to improve their movement patterns.
So the stride can actually go back to closer to what it was before?
Exactly.
How
Which
do you
makes
deal
them
with
safer with their balance. It makes their speed, they're faster because of that.
Everything is better. The balance, you've got wider points of. Is there not any problem with muscular atrophy?
There are issues with muscular atrophy with a lot of neurological diagnoses that we treat. Parkinson's, you usually lose flexibility.
Right.
You lose flexibility in your upper body and you lose flexibility in your ankles. With Parkinson's, a lot of times strength is not the issue as much as their loss of range of motion.
Okay.
But if their ankle range of motion is not going through the full range of motion, for example, that heel raise test,
Yes,
someone
that
with
hurt
Parkinson's,
a lot.
they can't get up on their heels at all a lot of times because they've lost that flexibility. Okay, and when you lose that flexibility, you lose your function. You lose your ability to walk normally. That's why your feet shuffle, because you can't clear your toe when
You don't
take a
have the
step.
range you had.
You don't have the range you had. So a lot of times with our Parkinson's patients, we're working on ankle range of motion and flexibility, upper body flexibility, trunk and spinal flexibility, because a lot of times Parkinson's will pull them forward when we want to have them stand more upright. And when you're pulled forward, it throws off your balance. So getting them more upright with their flexibility in their spine and their ankles will help with their overall balance as well.
And I could see results of that being pretty quick. If my stride goes from 18 inches to 24 inches, I just got more comfortable doing stuff.
Yep, and then when we increase your stride length, it's going to increase your regular range of motion that you get.
Right.
When you just take a small step all the time, your ankles are never challenged to move the way they should move. But when we get you back into a normal stride length, then your ankle range of motion is encouraged to stay within normal limits.
Is somebody my age more open to taking care of themselves than younger generations? Are we wising up as we get older? We should have done better with our bodies, and now we need to fix it. Are we being stubborn?
I mean, I tell people all the time, when you're 20 years old, you can get away with a lot more than when you're 50 years old.
Yeah.
But every decade, you see changes. From 20, you can just get up and go, right? When you're 30, you realize, maybe I should be stretching a little bit before I get up and go. When you're 40, you realize you can't just join any sport and do anything at any time like you used to when you were 20.
I'm not going to be world champion in lacrosse because I saw a game on the field. Yeah.
And then when you're 50, you can just roll out of bed and be like, wow, that hurt. What did I do?
That was the moment where you turn your head and something pops and you're like, man, I wasn't even doing anything stupid or fun.
That's right. That happens a lot. But that, the good news is, there's always good news. We talk about all the problems. The good news is all these things can be managed through our programs that we have at MRS Physical Therapy. Whether it's a neurological diagnosis, whether it's an orthopedic diagnosis, hip pain, knee pain, low back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, whether it's a traumatic event, an amputation you went through. The therapists that we have all have tons of experience. My PT in Cranberry that I work with, she has over 30 years experience. I have over 30 years of experience. My other PT he's probably closer to 40 years of experience at this point in time. Then my PTAs that we work with have a ton of great experience, and our patients get really good outcomes by seeing us. So never feel like you're at a dead end or a roadblock. We take patients with and without insurance. We take all insurances, so there's no block to you coming to see us based on your insurance. You don't need a referral from a doctor to come to see us, so don't feel like you have to go see the doctor first. So MRS Physical Therapy has tried their best to remove anything that might interfere with your ability to get therapy. And that's been our goal, to serve our community the best that we can at MRS Physical Therapy.
All right, last question before we're done. Dale Reckless of MRS Physical Therapy is my guest. How much better do you sleep going home at night knowing that your job is helping people live their lives better?
Being a physical therapist is a great occupation to have. It's something that I identified in high school, and I never looked back. It's been a great occupation.
No second guessing, no nothing.
Never a second guess. Nope, it was the right thing for me. So
Dale Reckless of MRS Physical Therapy has been my guest. It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
Make plans to be a part of Wings and Wheels, happening on Saturday, May 21st at the Beaver County Airport. Air Heritage, along with Beaver County Radio and the Community College of Beaver County, is pleased to present this one-of-a-kind event that features airplanes and automobiles. It's happening from 9 to 5 on Saturday, May 21st. Check out the display of some of your favorite classic machines, including warbirds that fly in the air and classic cars that would rumble down the street, all in one location. Plus, there will be food booths and other attractions that will make Wings and Wheels something you'll want to plan for. Broadcast coverage partners include St. Barnabas Health System, among others. It's time to take off, literally, to Wings and Wheels, happening Saturday, May 21st at the Beaver County Airport in Chippewa.
When Mom started having trouble around her home, I became concerned. Little things were a struggle, but she didn't want anyone fussing over her. She wanted to stay in her home, but didn't know how she could manage it on her own. We didn't know what to do. Then we heard about Life Beaver County. Life stands for Living Independence for the Elderly. The Life program allows seniors to live safely in their homes with access to medical, social, and therapy services. Now that Mom's in the Life program, she has her own team of nurses and doctors that care for her. Mom loves attending the day center, where she spends time with her friends. She gets wonderful in-home support, prescription coverage, meals, and transportation. She couldn't be happier, and I couldn't be more assured that she's being well taken care of when I can't be there. To find out more about Life Beaver County, call today, 724-378-5400.
You can also visit Life Beaver County at their new website, lifevicare.org. That's LIFEVIE care.org. Live life at home.